Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Arthur Palmer was a highly successful construction contractor. One day, while sitting in his office, he received an offer he couldn't refuse. It was an opportunity to earn in a few weeks what would normally take years of hard work. The offer involved building bungalows in a remote forested area, and the buyers would not be from this world. The idea sounded absurd at first, but the amount of money was too tempting for Arthur to ignore. Without hesitation, he accepted the deal and quickly started making arrangements. The location was far from where he lived, but he was willing to take the risk. Booking the first available flight, he set off on his journey, his mind filled with ideas and plans. During the flight, Arthur envisioned the structures he would build, the techniques he would use, and how he would complete the project efficiently. But when the plane landed, he was in for a shock. The entire area was covered in snow. The air was bitterly cold, and everything around him was blanketed in white. He had arrived wearing nothing but a t-shirt and shorts, entirely unprepared for the freezing weather. Shivering, he knew he had no time to waste. He needed to find the designated meeting point as soon as possible. Pushing through the harsh wind, he trudged forward until he reached the location described to him. But another surprise awaited him there. Standing in the snow was a woman with lavender-colored skin. She was stunning, her otherworldly beauty captivating and mysterious. Arthur immediately recalled the part of the offer that mentioned buyers from another world. There was already one bungalow built on the site, and Arthur wasted no time approaching the woman. "Hey, hello. I'm Arthur Palmer, owner of Palmer Construction Company." The woman straightened her posture upon hearing his voice, adjusting her clothing as she responded. "Oh, hello. I'm Quina. I was sent here as an inspector from space. I apologize for my appearance. I wasn't warned about the cold either." Arthur chuckled despite his discomfort. "Trust me, I understand. I'm about to freeze solid." Quina gave him a sympathetic look. "Would you like to come inside and warm up?" Without hesitation, Arthur nodded, and they both entered the bungalow. But the inside was just as cold as the outside. Shivering, Arthur rubbed his hands together while scanning the room. His eyes landed on two unopened packages sitting on a table. "Look at this. We're in luck. There are 2 brand new hoodies here." "Really?" Quina's face lit up with relief. "That would be amazing. I can barely feel my fingers." Arthur quickly tore open the packages and handed one hoodie to Quina and the other to himself. They put them on, feeling slightly better, but the chill still clung to their bones. Arthur clapped his hands together, trying to generate warmth. "So, tell me, what exactly is this project? Who are we building these bungalows for?" Quina wrapped her arms around herself and exhaled before responding. "This area is meant to be a special settlement for beings from different parts of our galaxy. But for now, it's just a test phase." Arthur nodded slowly, absorbing the information. "So, I'm essentially creating a living space for extraterrestrial visitors, huh?" "Yes, exactly." Arthur exhaled, his breath visible in the freezing air. This was definitely turning out to be a more interesting job than he had imagined. As the night fell, the temperature dropped even further. They both huddled in their respective beds, but it was impossible to sleep. The cold was unbearable. After a long, silent moment, Quina's soft voice broke the silence. "Arthur, are you asleep?" "No." "You?" "No. Listen, don't take this the wrong way, but should we sleep together? Just to keep warm?" Arthur hesitated for a second, but knew it was the logical choice. "Yeah, that might actually work." He moved to her bed, and they wrapped themselves around each other. The warmth of their bodies provided much-needed relief from the biting cold. By morning, the sound of approaching footsteps stirred them awake. The construction crew had arrived, ready to begin work on the new bungalows. Arthur and Quina stepped outside, watching as the workers prepared their tools and materials. They exchanged a glance, realizing they had a long project ahead of them. The day passed quickly as Arthur led his team, while Quina documented everything, taking notes on the progress. As the evening arrived, their interactions became more relaxed, more flirtatious. The initial awkwardness had faded, replaced by an undeniable attraction. That night, as they prepared to sleep, Quina slipped under her blankets and locked eyes with Arthur. He didn't need an invitation. He joined her under the covers without a word. And this time, it wasn't just about keeping warm. He pressed a gentle kiss to her lips, and she responded without hesitation. The cold was soon forgotten as they lost themselves in each other. By the next morning, Arthur had made up his mind. He had to tell her how he felt. But just as he was about to speak, the construction workers arrived again. With a sigh, he postponed his confession until the evening. Throughout the day, he found himself sneaking moments with Quina, stealing quick kisses whenever he could. Their chemistry had grown into something undeniable. That night, when the work was finally done and they were once again alone in the bungalow, Arthur seized the moment. He cupped Quina's face, his eyes searching hers. "I love you, Quina. But it's more than just feelings. I want you with me, not just here, but anywhere. No amount of money or material success could ever replace this. You and me, let's go somewhere no one knows us and start over. Will you come with me?" Quina's eyes widened with pure joy. Without hesitation, she kissed him deeply before whispering, "Yes, yes, yes. But what about the project?" Arthur smirked. "The project? You think I care about this ridiculous project that only provided us with hoodies? Let's get out of here." He grabbed Quina's hand and led her through the snowy terrain, leaving the bungalow and the entire mission behind. When they reached the airport, Arthur booked the next available flight for the two of them. The destination didn't matter. All that mattered was that they were together. As the plane took off, Quina clung to his arm, excitement shining in her eyes. Arthur looked at her, realizing that she wasn't just from another world. She was his world. They landed in a city far from the freezing snow, where a warm breeze welcomed them. Arthur took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their past responsibilities lift. Here, there were no contracts, no obligations, only the future they would build together. The golden light of the setting sun stretched across the streets, casting long shadows as Arthur and Quina stepped out of the airport. The air smelled of salt and earth, a mixture of the nearby ocean and the blooming trees that lined the streets. For the first time in a long while, Arthur felt completely free. No looming deadlines, no pressures of a demanding project, just him and Quina hand in hand, ready to start something new. They found a small, cozy hotel for the night, their tired bodies sinking into the comfort of clean sheets. But sleep did not come quickly. They lay side by side, talking about everything and nothing, whispering dreams into the dimly lit room. "What do we do now?" Quina murmured, tracing lazy circles on Arthur's arm. Arthur thought for a moment before turning to look at her, his fingers brushing against the lavender hue of her cheek. "We build something. Not for someone else this time. For us." A small smile played on Quina's lips. "Something permanent?" Arthur nodded. "Something real." The next morning, they set out to find a place to call home. They wandered through narrow streets and open fields, searching for something that felt right. It wasn't long before they stumbled upon a small piece of land just beyond the city, surrounded by rolling hills and towering trees that swayed gently in the wind. It was quiet, peaceful, exactly what they needed. Arthur's years of experience in construction gave him a clear vision. He sketched plans late into the night, mapping out a house that would be simple but sturdy, warm but spacious. Quina, always curious, sat beside him, watching his hands move across the paper. "You make it look easy," she said, resting her chin in her palm. Arthur chuckled. "It's what I do. Though, I've never built something this important before." Quina tilted her head. "Because this one's for us? Because this one's home." They spent weeks gathering materials, planning every detail. Arthur took the lead with construction, but Quina was never far from his side, learning, asking questions, even helping where she could. She grew fond of the process, the way raw materials came together to form something meaningful. It reminded her of how their lives had intertwined, piece by piece, to build something neither of them had expected. Their bond deepened with every passing day. Quina, who had once traveled across galaxies with nothing but duty in her heart, now found herself dreaming of a quiet life. Arthur, who had spent years working for others, now worked for something far greater: love, companionship, a future that was his to shape. As the house neared completion, Arthur took a step back, wiping the sweat from his brow as he admired their work. A charming wooden structure stood before them, its large windows catching the golden hues of the setting sun. The porch wrapped around the front, inviting and warm, and inside, the rooms were filled with the scent of fresh wood and possibility. Quina stood beside him, her eyes shining. "We really did it," she whispered. Arthur wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "We did." That night, as they lay in their new home for the first time, Arthur turned to her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Are you happy?" he asked, his voice low and gentle in the dim light of their bedroom. Quina gazed at him, her violet eyes reflecting the soft glow of the lantern beside their bed. She reached up, resting her palm against his cheek. "I've never been happier," she whispered. Arthur smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. The warmth of her body, next to his, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees outside, it all felt so right. He had spent his whole life chasing stability, chasing success, but here, with Quina, he realized he had been chasing the wrong things all along. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, their breaths slow and steady, lost in the comfort of knowing they had finally found home, not in a place, but in each other. The days that followed were filled with quiet joy. They settled into a peaceful rhythm, waking up to the golden morning light spilling through their bedroom window, drinking coffee on the porch as birds sang in the distance. Arthur spent his time perfecting the house, adding little touches to make it even cozier: sturdy wooden shelves in the kitchen, a stone fireplace in the living room, a handmade swing on the porch for lazy afternoons. Quina, always eager to learn, began exploring the town nearby. She met locals, asked endless questions, and slowly started blending into this new life. She even picked up gardening, turning a patch of land behind their house into a thriving little oasis of flowers, herbs, and strange glowing plants she had managed to bring from her home planet. One evening, as Arthur worked on their porch railing, Quina came up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Come with me," she murmured against his back. He put down his tools, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Where to?" She took his hand and led him to the garden, where tiny blue orbs flickered in the twilight, a result of the bioluminescent plants she had planted weeks ago. The sight was mesmerizing. Arthur watched in awe as the tiny lights pulsed softly, like stars scattered across the ground. "I wanted to bring a little piece of my world here," she said, looking up at him. "So, even if I never go back, I won't forget where I came from." Arthur squeezed her hand. "It's beautiful," she smiled. "So, is this life we're building?" And so, their days continued in a blend of quiet moments and stolen kisses, of shared laughter and whispered dreams under the night sky. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Quina resting her head against Arthur's shoulder, a thought crossed her mind. "Do you ever think about what we left behind?" she asked softly. Arthur exhaled slowly. "Sometimes," he laced his fingers with hers, "but I don't regret it." Not for a second. She looked up at him. "Me neither." A comfortable silence stretched between them before Quina grinned mischievously. "You know, if you ever get bored, I hear there's a construction company in town looking for a skilled builder." Arthur chuckled. "I think I've had enough of building for others. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something small. A guest cabin, maybe? For visitors?" Quina teased. "For a family," he said, looking into her eyes. Quina's breath hitched, her fingers tightening around his. "Arthur, I'm serious," he said, bringing her hand to his lips. "I want a future with you, Quina, whatever that looks like. However long we have." Her heart swelled, and she leaned in, kissing him deeply. "Then let's build it together." And as the stars twinkled above them, they knew this was just the beginning of the life they had built together.